To what extent do you think faith comes into believing God in comparison to logic?
Great question. Amazing question. Again, we have a video on this on JTV. So I think the video is called, we have a playlist called Jewish Philosophy, and one of the videos is what is faith, or something like that. If faith is knowledge, knowledge versus faith, something like that. Great question. I've just told you that I think it's rational to believe in God, that it's rational to believe that God wrote the Torah, and that Judaism is rational. But then what does faith mean? What does it mean to have faith in God? Doesn't faith mean I don't have enough knowledge, I don't have enough evidence, therefore I'm just going to believe? You got to believe, you know? Like, I'm going to have a leap of faith. Isn't that what leap of faith means? Or blind faith? Like, I can't see everything, but I'm going to go for it, you know? And we have a word for faith in Hebrew, which is, anyone? You'll kick yourself when I tell you. Emunah. There you go. Emunah. So what does it mean to have faith? Like, what does Judaism demand of us? Does it demand of us to suspend our intellectual faculties and just believe in God? I personally think that's stupid. Like, I might as well believe in the tooth fairy. Like, if there's not enough evidence, I'll just suspend my belief, my intellectual capacities, and I'll just believe in the tooth fairy. Like, that doesn't make, like, I'm not going to believe in something, I'm not going to commit my life to something if there isn't sufficient evidence behind it. I think that's reasonable, and that's why I'm not going to believe in the tooth fairy. And so the question then becomes, well, what do we mean by faith? Certainly, by the way, in other religions and other traditions, they all talk a lot about faith, how you need to, there might not be enough evidence behind something, but you've just got to submit to it. I do think there is sufficient evidence to say that it's more plausible of the options that there's a God who's directed history, who is directing Jewish history, who's written the Torah, all that kind of stuff. So then what do we mean by faith? What does emunah mean? Rabbi Tatz explains it beautifully, Rabbi Akiva Tatz. He says it's just a very simple change in the translation. Emunah doesn't mean faith, it means faithfulness. What's the difference? I can know, as a matter of fact, that smoking is bad for me. As a matter of fact, I know smoking is bad for me. But I can still decide to go ahead and smoke 20 cigarettes a day. I don't smoke, by the way. But I can still decide to do that, especially when I start getting addicted, right? Then you start to have your impulses, your desires are telling you what to get. You can still know, I can know, I want to lose weight. I can know that I must not have that chocolate brownie that my mum's just made. But your impulses, your desires, your emotions, oh, you feel so bad for yourself, you know, you've had such a tough week. What's one brownie going to do, you know? You can know something is true and yet choose to ignore it or choose to lead a life that's different, that's not in keeping with what you know to be true. It's called cognitive dissonance. I can know something's true, but I don't go ahead and lead a life in accordance with that. The same is exactly true of faith, religion. Faith, emunah, means faithfulness. It means being faithful to that which you know to be true. I can know there's a God. I can know that there's, you know, it's rational to believe in these things, but I can choose to ignore that. I can choose not to put on tefillin. I can choose not to, you know, pray. I can choose not to be kind to that person. I can choose to, you know, just quickly, just if the waiter forgot to add on that extra thing to my bill, I can choose just to, you know, whatever, ignore him because, you know, whatever. Or maybe there might be a God, but, you know, well, I'll deal with it. Or God will, you know, He'll forgive me, or whatever it is. I'll deal with the consequences later. Emunah in Judaism means being loyal and faithful to that which you've already concluded to be true. Judaism does not demand of us to be irrational, to believe in something without being comfortable that this is a plausible position to hold. What it says is, once, you know, you're not going to get, God isn't going to reveal himself to you in the open and do, you know, to talk to you directly. He'll put a lot of things in the world to make it, to point you in the right direction. But your choice then is to decide, am I going to be loyal to that? Am I going to follow through with that? Am I going to lead life in accordance with that? And by the way, that's a challenge every single day. And just because I've concluded these, you know, I feel very, very confident from a rational perspective in God and the basic principles of Judaism. Does that mean I'm a perfect Jew? Absolutely not. Does that mean I make mistakes? Does that mean that I rationalize doing bad things? Of course it does. Emunah is about, also the other challenge is, does it mean that I have faith, have trust in Hashem when difficult things happen in my life? It's really difficult, especially as you don't see God. And we're also inbuilt. Not only do we have like physical drives and emotional stuff and that kind of stuff, we also are told that we have something called a Yetzer Hara, which is a voice within all of our heads, and which is like called the evil inclination, which actually is trying to make us the best person we can be, but it's doing that by giving us all those skeptical voices and those voices of fear and doubt and worry and all that kind of stuff. So emunah, faith, is translated as faithfulness. It's being loyal to that which you know to be true. And just as a side point, in terms of people say, I would believe in God if he revealed himself to us, just as an aside point, we do actually kind of concede that point, because God does say, actually, I do need to reveal myself at one point throughout history. And he does at Mount Sinai. Now people say, well, yeah, but how do we know whether that happened? That was thousands of years ago. Interesting to note that the only religion that's ever made the claim that God revealed himself to a group of people, when I say a group, I mean more than one person, is Judaism, is the claim of the national revelation at Mount Sinai. Isn't that odd? The fact that you'd expect, surely if you can get away with that, such a false claim, surely another religion and other people would try and get away with that claim as well. Something to think about. We did a video on that called National Revelation. Type in that to JTV, you'll find it, where I go into that in more detail. But interestingly, the Shema, which is our declaration of faithfulness that we say twice a day, the last letter of the first word and the last letter of the final word of the Shema is an ayin and a daled, and they're both bigger than the other letters, because when you put ayin and daled together, it spells the word witness, because it's implying that our faith, our belief, is based on the fact that we were once witness as a nation to God revealing himself. But what it's really saying is that you can be witness to God in the sense of you can see things that point towards God, but still you have to declare this twice a day because of that cognitive dissonance thing. We can still forget, we can still go back into our old routines, we can still get pulled by our environment, by our friends to do this or that. You have to constantly declare the Shema twice a day to remind yourself of this thing. And the reason why we're meant to actually cover our eyes when we do that, when we say the Shema, is because of the very fact that when we look at when you look at the world, things don't necessarily all add up. There's suffering in the world, there's challenges in the world, we have challenges in our life. We also have so many things that are pushing us this way, that way, whether it's friends, whether it's our own motives, our own desires, our own impulses. And the purpose of shutting your eyes is just to say, you know what, things don't make complete sense to me, but I'm going to learn to hear the voice of God in my life. That's why we say the word Shema Yisrael. We don't say Ro'eh Yisrael, see Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. We say hear Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And an interesting point about that, when the Jews were at Mount Sinai, it says, the Torah says that they saw the sounds of the blast, of the noise that were coming from the mountain. That's weird, odd language to use. They saw the sounds. What does that mean? You hear sounds, you don't see sounds. And one explanation given is that the difference between seeing and hearing something is that when you see something, you can take it in all at once. You see a picture, you take it all at once. When you hear something, when I'm communicating with you, you hear word after word after word, decibel after decibel, and you have to slowly put it all together and build a picture in your head of what I'm telling you. But at Mount Sinai, they had this all-encompassing experience of the infinite, of God speak to them, that everything happened to them at once, basically. It was they transcended the finite. They transcended that which of hearing things bit by bit. And so it was an all-encompassing experience. But what it's telling us when it comes to the Shema is that we say, hear, O Israel, when we declare our faith, not see Israel. Because hearing, also think about it, it's about hearing, isn't about you see everything immediately and it all makes sense. It's about putting one thing together, another thing together, another together in your mind. Not necessarily things all making sense in front of you, but taking a step back and thinking about this and that and the other, and then it can all come together. Even if you don't see God in front of your eyes, it's more of a slow process of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, and that's what faithfulness is. That's why we say Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel.
To stay up to date with JTV content, click subscribe here if you're on YouTube and hit the alarm bell. And if you're on Facebook, hit the like button, and under following, click see first. If you enjoy watching JTV content and want to help us continue to grow, please consider making a donation to us by clicking here.